Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Strategy Gaming Dojo, where we find, learn, and play the great strategy games. Today, we are going to do another exciting episode of this Let's Play tutorial of Civil War II. We are currently in late June of 1861, and when I left you last time, we had just processed the early June turn, and so here we sit in late June. So what changed? What happened that last turn? Well, not a whole lot. The Union continues to build here at Alexandria. We're seeing with our recon 1391 in combat power, but old PT Beauregard over here. Now this game calls him PGT. I've always heard him called PT Beauregard, but PGT's fine. Um, that's a lot of names. Anyway, he's built up to 1050, so we're sitting pretty good there, especially considering he's on two entrenchment. Two entrenchment, defending. He's a good defensive general. We see his defend number is a 4. That's that third number in his command rating is the defensive number. That is a 4, so that's pretty solid. Um, so we're fine here. Let's put it that way. Now he is not in a good command situation with command points, but he won't be really until we can form divisions, and that won't come until October. So when we can form divisions, these guys will be forming divisions with these brigadier generals, and we can put up to 18 units, 18 elements into a division, and it only costs 4 command points. So think about what an advantage that is. We would be going from whatever this is. I think this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This currently is 9 elements. It takes 9 command points. You could take this plus Early's brigade, which is another 5, so you're up to 14, plus Ewell's brigade, which takes you up to 18. We'll be able to put all of these into a division, and instead of taking 18 command points, they'll take 4. So that command control bonus is massive. But unfortunately, we're not able to do that until October. That's just modeling historical accuracy. Now, meanwhile, over here, we've got Joseph E. Johnston in the Shenandoah Valley. Now, we haven't gone through our messages yet, but we will be getting a message here that he is ready to form an army, and that's great. We didn't do anything wrong. Nothing's happened as to why we couldn't form an army. It's just, again, it's historical that this would be the time out in the Shenandoah that finally Joe Johnston can form an army, and that's going to be very helpful for his command point situation. It will put him in the proper chain of command, which will give him up to 16 command points plus any bonuses that are applicable. So while we're here, let's go ahead and do that, and there you see it. So now you see his command is now up to 16 plus 2. Because he's got 2 special abilities, he gets 2 bonus command points. And now this army is in really, really good command, right? We've got 18 command points commanding 12 elements, so that's great. This also, if you look, bumped his combat power up from like 360, I think, to 479. Now, why is that? Because that penalty that we had for not having enough command points is now gone. And so that automatically, and dynamically updates what the command power is. So anytime you see the command power, it's already taking into account the command penalties. And so he's up to 479, but we're also building these brigades. And you can see here that Wharton's brigade is ready to go. And how do you know that? So look at Elzey's brigade. It's still building. They're still forming up these troops. It has a brown, this stands for fixed. Now we know about the red ones that are just fixed because of operations of the game. The brown ribbon means that the force is building. You can also see that here for manpower and cohesion. It's just not ready to go. And you can also see it on this red strip down here. That is telling you that that force is building and you can't really do anything with it. Now, if it gets attacked, it will activate, but that's really the only thing that can happen with this. But as I said, Warden's Brigade's ready to go. That gives us a 98 combat power, which is fantastic. Now let's look at the army here. So Johnston, these guys are all activated, and we've got to start thinking about, do we take the Stonewall Brigade out on its own? Now you'll notice that Stonewall Jackson, well, we'll go into that in a minute. Okay, let's first of all okay, so Armistead's is still building. This is one of those big, huge, powerful units that we can buy. Now you'll see it's actually even better than what we purchased. We thought we were purchasing 200 combat power. That Armistead's brigade is up to 240 plus. That's just because their equipment and whatnot's getting better as we go on in the game. So when we purchased it, it would have been 200. That unit's filling up. It's got maybe some better stuff. So its combat power is actually 240. That's awesome. But we're going to move this Wharton's brigade over here because Wharton's brigade is only costing us 3 element command points. Now that only bumped up to 14, which is interesting. Hmm, I think, huh, that's interesting. Okay, well, it's 14. I'm sure I'll think of exactly why that is. Again, some of this is trial and error, and that's how you really learn the command structure. Because if you took this out, yeah, it says it's 2, even though we have 3 elements in here. Huh, awesome. That may have to do because they're sharpshooters. There's a -1. I will look into that. Apologies. Okay, so we've got this all set up here. He's now an army. He's now up to 602, which is great. We've got the third local Virginia defense that showed up here, but we're just kind of doing a grand sweep of the map here. So let's not get too bogged down, and we'll get down into the messages. So these are our 2 big armies. That's great, and they truly are armies now. Now we have this force up here with John B. Floyd, and I can tell you the first few times I played this game, you're very tempted to take Floyd and say, "Oh, cool. I can take Morgantown. It's the state capital. It's the capital of West Virginia. Let's just jump across the river." I can tell you that's not really the way to do it because that's just kind of trial and error. It does look very tempting. Now you see the Union has a force over here. The recon we have on them is 86. Floyd is a terrible general. He hurts your cohesion by 25%, as you see down here. Special abilities do not have to be positive. They can also be negative. So we've seen a drunk. It literally has a beer mug on his card. But this is dispirited. I don't know what happened to John B. Floyd. He's just not a good general. Negative 25 cohesion is terrible. It's awful. So when we get into moving things around this turn, we'll be dropping him back either to Lewisburg, Staunton, or Covington. We'll decide that when we get there. It probably depends on what we're going to do with this force. But anyway, back up here, Morgantown, they've got a force of 86. We would also be crossing a river with a crap general. That's You're not going to take the town. Um, you you might besiege it here for a little bit, but the Union has forces lurking about. You're just going to waste some troops here. So it's a pretty nice, he's got a really nice force here. He's just not great. So we're just going to drop him back. Maybe, maybe get these guys in there, although they're very helpful to kind of, watch this western flank here where they are in Charleston. We've got MJ Thompson down here, which he is eventually going to lead this force, but he's just kind of hanging out. We also have a reserve force here. Now, this was just built by the game. We didn't we didn't build this. This is just a historical build. that pops up here in Lexington. We also have a wagon train here in Charlottesville. Now, before we forget, let's just put that wagon train with these guys. Um, Now it says it's going to take 13 days. Our rail is 114. Oh gosh, 102. Well, we're not in that big of a hurry. That's fine. It'll just take one turn to get over there and become part of this group. Make sure they merge. It's targeting the 61 generals. We will give them this wagon train. That could be very helpful. Um, Magruder has activated down here. Now we've got this stuff up here that we sent from Norfolk. Remember, we captured some stuff in Norfolk. We sent it up here to Richmond. This is kind of going to be a reaction force if we have some problems elsewhere on the map, but we'll get back up to these guys again. Same with Ben Huger. Let's just kind of sweep the map. We've already looked at those guys. As we move further west, you'll see we've got this huge gap, and we're going to have to try to close that gap down a little bit. Now, we might do it with militia. We may do it with this Knoxville force and put another force in Knoxville. I always like to have a decent force in Knoxville. It's kind of centrally located, but we got to protect this rail line that runs all the way from Virginia, down here into Tennessee. It just runs a long way. So Chattanooga, Knoxville, all the way back to Virginia and Staunton. Now remember, we have this wagon train that we're moving up here to Nashville. We also got a brand new force in Nashville, which we'll read about here in a minute. We're going to go through the messages. So that's great. We got a cavalry that we're moving about here. Uh, no, that's actually new, I believe. Yep, we just got this cavalry. So that's great. It's got horse artillery, so it's fast-moving artillery. You pull it by the horse and then set it up so it can move with cavalry. That's great. We still have this Memphis force out here. There's kind of a bunch of bits and pieces here in Memphis that we'll have to take a look at. And I'll probably make this turn over 2 episodes. So we'll come back and move all these guys, as time permits. Army of the West, we've got them set up here with Ben McCullough. They are not able to form an army yet. Ben McCullough is a wonderful general. He is a 4-2-2, but he's got all these special abilities for out in the wild. So we've got McCullough there in Little Rock. Meanwhile, up here in Fayetteville, you see that J.O. Shelby has arrived with this Sterling Price force. So we'll, be looking at that and the best way to put all of these armies out here together out west. Where else? So as long as we're sweeping the map, let's back up a little bit. Maybe not that far, but let's back up a little bit. So, you see what we've got going on out west. Here, some stuff in Memphis. You're seeing the line being built, right? This railway goes all the way, as I said, from Staunton, Virginia to where does it ever end? All the way to Little Rock. And this will be our defensive line. This is what we're going to try to hold from west to east. Hold this railway. Sometimes you have natural impediments. That's great. Sometimes up here in we'll be a little further north. Like we definitely want to hold Nashville. So that's kind of the grand overview. If we go down by New Orleans, I know I saw some ships moving around down here at some point. So there was a Union ship, but I'm not seeing it now. Let's back up. Nope, I don't really see anything, but maybe I wouldn't. I was a little too far back. There it is. There's that Union ship. Now, what the heck is this? We've got a 2-star admiral, which is kind of the same as a 2-star general, and we have 6 ships. Now, it doesn't tell us what kind of ships those are because we don't have good recon on this. Our coast watchers or whoever have told us that there's a Union fleet moving out in the Gulf, but we are having moved from the Atlantic into the Gulf. But we really don't know what's in it. It could be a landing force. We just know that they're ships. Those could be troop transports. And a good northern player will immediately start trying to put pressure on you. Um, and we need to look here. Okay, we've got transports. We've got one defensive guy. I mean, New Orleans is the jewel down here, right? Uh, they can take Houston. They could take Galveston. That's not the end of the world. Now, of course, we want to hold them. But if we don't, it's not the end of the world. You cannot lose New Orleans and you can't lose Mobile. If you give the Union these kind of staging points, you're now fighting a three-front war against a superior enemy, and that is not good mojo. Okay, well, we're going to come back and look at that eventually in this turn. So let's see. The Confederacy has commissioned more rolling stock and equipment for its railroads. Now, we talked about this last time. We bought this, as you may remember. We spent some money. We spent some, I think it cost some war supplies, and we built up our rail stock. Now, it's still not enough. You're constantly going to be needing rail stock or rail points. So it says here our supply capacity is average. We need a minimum of 159 points. Meanwhile, our river, we need 32 to be, what do they call it? Full transportation. Your river supply capacity is nil. We need 32 for that to just even be minimum. So we're not really even moving supply on the river. That's not good. Oh, while I come over here, I'll point out these are our two armies. You can see the general leading them. It's just shortcuts. So if you want to go see Johnston, click there. Beauregard the same. Now let's go to our almanac book of knowledge, whatever you want to call it. Now this is where we build our war supply. Treasury, here it is. So it's under various. This is where we increase our railway and our river pool. Now we just increased our railway. I think we need to increase our river pool. River pool is increased by 25. It's $50,000. Okay, we're not too bad off for money. We got 845,000 and it's 25 war supply. I think that's worth it. Jefferson Davis is going to sign off on that. And let's go back down into our messages. So we're going to pull up our rail, or I'm sorry, our river uh, movement a little bit. We'll be able to get troops around faster, but also we're going to be able to move more supply, make sure nobody gets out of supply. I mean, there are a ton of rivers, obviously, in this game. Look at Virginia. It's all river. If we can move things by river, that's great. The Confederacy has decided to support building new arsenals in Georgia. This is what we did last time as well, to build up this war supply every turn once that gets built. All states mobilized their militias throughout the Confederacy. That's why we saw these new troops, right? So when I was out here and I said, oh, hey, we saw this cavalry, or, we saw these guys out here, the Tennessee Guard is now starting to build up. So they're talking about militia troops. We did get other troops. Um, did we get any in Knoxville? They're around. We'll find them. But oh, if you look at Columbia, there you go. South Carolina State Guard just showed up in Columbia. That's South Carolina down there building up their militia, and that'll be pretty much in every state capital or main um, city in the Confederacy. Now, Semmes takes command of the Sumter to raid Union shipping. Okay, right. This, uh, hmm, no, there it is. They just took this Raphael Semmes and just put him out here. So the game said, "Hey, we're going to go raid some shipping lines." We did not put this out there. This is again just one of those historical things. He is going to be raiding shipping. Great. We've got an admiral. What's he good at? He's a sea raider and a seaman. Awesome. I'm glad he's out there. Economic sunrise. Inflation lowered by 1 point. That was just done again. It's a scripted event. That'll tell you that we did these two things, but these three things all happen as a scripted event. So anything you do up here in the book, or that just happens by operation of the game, that's in your first messages. So let's go to our second messages. Battles, retreats, and siege. Our blockade runners from the Atlantic have done pretty well. Blockade runners from Gulf have gotten us a little more. Every little bit helps. You know, that 8, that's fantastic. Island 10 has bombarded a Union detachment and hit 11 hits. Fort Pillow has bombarded a Union detachment. Okay, let's see what we're talking about. Now, when we resolved that turn last time, you may remember that there was just this phantom Union force that was booking it down the Mississippi River. That force here at Island 10, you see this Island 10 battery? That force was hit by our battery. So when they tried to sail by, it was hit by Island 10. It was also hit by Fort Pillow. That's what it's telling us. So we did some damage to them, 26 hits, 11 hits. We were not damaged at all from return fire. Now, what was the practical effect of this? We don't know. It's fog of war. So we don't really know what we accomplished there, but 26 hits is better than 0 hits, I'll tell you that. So up and down the Mississippi, you will see that some of our forts have guns, like Vicksburg has a Vicksburg battery. How would you know just flipping down here? I bet you Natchez, nope, Natchez just has a militia. Again, it's this little brown box that's sticking out from the fort, town, whatever it is you're looking at. Same thing here at Meridian. We know that means there's a ground unit there when that's sticking out. If it's a blue box, it's a naval unit. Okay, so we've read about those. Now we have a ton of movement and restriction orders. I'm not going to, let's not go through every single one of these. It's, you should, when you're playing the game, for the most part, look at these. And then if you don't understand something that's happening, click on the boot here. But we understand a lot of what's happening here. Memphis Squadron was delayed. For whatever reason, their orders, they didn't click on time. Okay. Island 10 Squadron, remember, they're the ones that bombed here. They just became activated. They likely became activated because that ship was coming by. Memphis Squadron, Island 10, J.O. Shelby's out in Fayette. We saw that. Um, this CSA detachment arrived in Shelby, Tennessee. Okay, great. Um, Yeah. So this is that 2nd Brigade. I think they're talking about this wagon train that came across here. That's what arrived. You see the Patrick Henry, that's that ship that Semis just took control of. Arkansas, the CSA detachment. Okay, so that's our supply wagon. Oh, hold on. If that ever happens to you, sometimes when you click back to it, it shows you all of these messages in one comprehensive list. If you want to filter it back down, just go over here and click on that. Um, these guys are active. That's John B. Floyd's group out there. Stonewall, Bees Brigade, they're active now. That's why um, Johnston was allowed to form an army. Your troops have to be active, and they were not active yet. We're going to look at breaking off Stonewall Jackson during the next episode. Uh, Beauregard, all of these guys are now active. Wisest Legions, these generals are now active. Okay, so I mean, basically, we just saw that a bunch of stuff got activated, which is excellent. The replacements and new units. When you see something like this, Hampton, South Carolina received First South Carolina. This is a unit receiving an element. As you've noticed, sometimes when I pull up a unit, not all of their elements are filled, and you can tell that because one of them will be white. This is just telling you that those elements are getting filled, this right here. Then we received one replacement from our reserve units. so we'll have to go look at that. Campbell's brigade is almost trained, and the Tennessee militia. Okay, great. We captured Rolla, Missouri. Oh, we. I was like, wait a minute, we didn't do. The United States of America captured Rolla. Now, when we get out here, St. Louis obviously is a very important town. It's a very important town to the Union. They initially outnumber you out here, but it's an interesting war, right? We've got Shelby, who's going to form a little scout unit, cavalry unit. We've got Price. We've now, we've got Ben McCullough down here. This is all what really did happen during the Civil War. McCullough and Price did not get along, so that there were some complications there that we probably won't have to face, but it's very interesting reading if you want to do that sometime. So they captured Rolla and the Rolla Depot. So there was a depot there. Of course, we held this because Missouri is now Confederate, but the North, the Union, is starting to move this way. They will take Springfield. It's impossible for us to defend that. They're going to come out here to these forts, and we're going to have to kind of play this game. We don't want to give up Fayetteville, but ultimately we have some strong places here in Fort Coffee and Fort Smith that can sustain our, most westernmost army. It can sustain, and it's very defendable. Also, you don't want the Union jumping on this river and getting down into Little Rock or, God forbid, Memphis. Then you got all kinds of problems. And if they take Little Rock, now you're in some trouble. Okay, so we've looked over our messages. The second thing I always do, well, I guess it's the third. I like to sweep the map. I like to look at the messages. Then I like to go to the playing cards. What do we have? Demonstration. Um, I always go back and forth. They cost some money. You're taking away loyalty. So, if you're going to do it and have it pay off in any sort of way, it's really got to be up here in the border. So, Clarksburg, Charleston, DC is obviously not going to, not, it's going to be pro-union. Alexandria may go back and forth. These places may. It just knocks down the union's loyalty. Does it do any good? I don't know. It may cut a line. Let's just put one in Morgantown because we know they've got a force there. We kind of want them to not attack Floyd. So who knows? That might help. Martial law, counterintel, draft, requisitions. No. Export bales. All right. Let's go down here and make some money. So we'll pay for playing that card by exporting our bales out. Um, Open trail, scorched earth, build outpost. None of that really makes any sense for us right now. So we've looked at our cards. We will build some forces again this turn. Early in the game, as the Confederacy, build forces all the way down as much as you can. We've already kind of looked at this. War production, we have not looked at though. This is what's building. These are our reserves. We don't really have much in the way of reserves, but you will not early in the game. We already signed up for the river pool, the interior. Now we could build more arsenals and armories. It's always a good idea to do it if you can afford it. Now, this time though, I want to build some more troops. I don't want to spend it on this. Early in the game, that's the decision you have to make. I try to alternate every turn. So if one time I build an armory or whatever they want to call it, arsenals, ironworks, they're all the same thing. They're building war supplies. They're just giving it different fancy names. I try to alternate. One turn I'll do that, and then the next turn I'll try to build as many troops as possible. Um, oh shoot, sorry. So moving through our book a little more. Treasury, no. That was interior. Government, we're still not going to do any of this stuff. Um, we're at 521 VPs, so we've got the lead. We're getting 53 a turn. They're getting 53 a turn. So a bit of a stalemate. Their morale has raised a little bit, but so is ours. We're at 102, looking good there. Okay, so I think we've taken care of all of the ministerial functions, let's call them, that we can. So let's go look at our armies and figure out what we're going to do this turn. I generally like to start at Norfolk and build around and then, move to the left. That's just how I do it. I kind of move all the way down this rail line from right to left, from east to west, and do that. Then I'll pop down around to Texas, up through southern Texas to New Orleans, and then think, do we need to do anything in Charleston, places like that that are a little further south? Not a lot of this game happens south of here, this kind of area, until you get over to New Orleans or Texas. So, Charleston, South Carolina, we do have that Charleston group that's down there that we're going to want to bring north. But if you have militia down there and the North isn't trying to land troops down there, it's kind of a quiet area of the map. So let's do a quick look, and then I think I'm going to call this an episode. And when we come back, we'll move everything around for the next episode. So we've still got our Suffolk militia here. Now, don't forget, we've got the garrison. It's pretty nice, you know, that's a really nice sized garrison. It's got heavy guns and artillery. If the Union tries to sail down here, they're going to be in for something. We've got the Marines here, they're building. Let's actually put them inside the garrison. Why not? Put them with something that could protect them if this was attacked. We've got this squadron here. I still don't want to sail them out. Maybe when we get the ironclad built, we'll sail them out. For now, let's just stick there. We've got our Suffolk militia back here. We'll just put them in Suffolk. So let's give them the special, let's move them back in Suffolk. No reason not to. What we got here? Oh, roads, right. We're building roads there. We've got Huger down here. Now we said we're going to move Whiting down to Huger, or Whiting, Winder down to Huger. But I've been thinking about this. I really want to move Huger up to Beauregard. Why do I want to do this? Because Huger, if you read this, is an artilleryman. He gets a 20% combat bonus for all artillery units in the stack that he is in. Apply to all stacks in the region if this leader is the most high-ranking officer in the region. Now, he will not be with Beauregard, but this ability applies to all elements of the stack, and that's, that golden goose you're looking for, because Huger does not have to be in charge of a stack for his 20% combat bonus to apply to every artillery unit in the stack. That's very powerful, especially on the defense. So Huger is a great defensive addition to a big army because he makes all of your artillery better. So we're going to pull Huger out and we're going to move Huger up to Beauregard and we're going to go put him in that stack. It's only going to take one turn. That's great. We're not going to put him on rail or anything. If things take like one turn or less, I don't put him on rail unless there's some reason they need to be there sooner. Why even waste a point? So now his force down here, the CSA detachment, then we're going to want Vendor or Winder, if you prefer, to go take that because it's 322. Now he has an 89 seniority. I think Whiting has a 93. I was going to move Whiting with him because I want this group to be in command and kind of move down here towards Norfolk. There's no reason to have them back here at Petersburg. It's very unlikely the North is going to sail a task fleet up here big enough to take Petersburg. We'll leave them there for now. Um, for this move, let's actually go back here. You see the CSA detachment. That's what Huger was commanding. Let's take Vendor's card and move him down here. Well, it's hard to. Here, let's move Huger off of them so that when we have Huger or a Vendor down here, we'll then have him merge and he will take command of that group. Okay. Um, Magruder's already got supply. Do these guys down here have supply? They do have a supply wagon. It's called the Huger Supply. So it'll be awkward when vendor comes down here and leads it. Not really. Nobody gets their feelings hurt, hopefully. Oh, do. You know, we've got these wagon trains. We've got this. We'll definitely put this. Let's. Oh, this is Magruder. Um, You know what? I'm going to figure out what to do with this artillery next time. We could either move it here, we could leave it with Magruder, or we could even pop it up here and give it to Beauregard. But we're at about that magic 35-minute, 40-minute mark. So I'm going to call this an episode. We've had a lot of things activate this turn. So that's why this turn is taking a little longer. Once we're used to every piece that we've got on the board, that will shorten up. I'll stop going through every message. But I think in the early episodes, maybe it's helpful for somebody trying to learn the game or why you think the way, or why at least I think the way I do when I play the game. But when we come back, we're going to look at this Magruder force and Vendor that we're moving down here, Huger that we're moving up there. We've also had some forces build here in Petersburg that we'll probably give to Beauregard. We want this force here to be eventually well over 2,000. I think when Lee takes control and you get all those command points, you can get it up, 26, 2,700. So we will definitely be doing that and building that, what will eventually become the Army of Northern Virginia. So as always, thank you for joining me. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed this episode, please click subscribe if you haven't. Helps me continue to make episodes and, maybe teach you a game that you've always wanted to try or show you a new one that intrigues you. So this has been Strategy Gaming Dojo. As always, thank you, and I'll see you next time.